Hello and welcome. So this is our fourth and final teleclass in this series of the impact of your beliefs. And I want to thank each and every one of you who is here, and also all of you who have been watching these videos that have been archived. I'm so appreciative of your interest in this topic and your willingness to be part of this dialogue. It's my belief, and obviously the belief of thousands, if not millions of others around the world, that this is such an important conversation to take place. As you know, this 4-class series has been in preparation for Oprah's 7-part documentary that begins on October 18th, of which it is all about belief. Well, today I have to tell you, I watched in entirety the first episode, and just in line with what happened when I was watching the trailer, I couldn't stop crying. It touched me so deeply. And I think it did so for a number of reasons, and certainly on a number of different levels. But most of all, what touched me so was the way that each personal story really described a journey from a place where once there was an emptiness that then became full, a place where previous beliefs were let go of in order to embrace and to invite new beliefs in. The transformation that took place in each one of those people's lives could have brought me to my knees. And when I think about my own transformation and all the years of my conscious journey, I think about the privilege that it has been, and the privilege that I've had of bearing witness to the journey of so many others who I have worked with, who are my friends, my family, even those that I don't know, but I've been honored with viewing from afar. And of course, seeing their journeys unfold in ways that perhaps even they haven't. It's my belief that if each of us were to do that, were to take a moment and to think about the people in our lives, our friends, our family, even our enemies, that we would see that there is not one of us who has not taken a journey from the time that we came into each other's worlds and to where we are now. Sometimes it seems as if those shifts, those changes are so subtle, and some are quite dramatic. But nonetheless, there is not one that's greater or lesser than the other. Our journey is just that, it's a journey. And there are always new places to begin, as well as new destinations, new places to arrive. When we do this consciously, we become proactive in creating what it is that we want to experience in our lives. This, I also believe, is a privilege. And so I endeavor, and I know so many others who endeavor to be as conscious as possible. And I think that Oprah's intention in creating this documentary, which is so outstanding, is to do just that, to bring our awareness to a new place, a place where we can start to really see and embrace the commonalities that we share, and to move beyond mere tolerance of differences, mere tolerance of diversity, and with great compassion to begin to celebrate each other, and to begin rather than to be afraid, to be fearful of each other, but to see that each one of us brings something quite unique and special into the world that will enhance our lives if we allow it to, even if it's just to embrace who they are, what they believe, and their devotion to expressing those beliefs. So we have had a wonderful journey together. We started actually 4 sessions ago when we first looked at the trailer of belief and had a discussion about some of the things that we shared during that viewing. And then from there, our first session was about the connection between belief and purpose. Is there a connection at all? Some of the questions that came up were profound and came from a very deep place within those who shared them. Then, of course, in the second session, we looked at how others do believe and how can we learn more about them? How can we go about actually embracing others' beliefs? We also talked about why we might want to do that or why we might not want to do that. And last session, we talked about ways that we can connect more. How can we actually get in contact with other communities, different faiths, different religions, different spiritual traditions? And how can we use that information to impact the world and ourselves for the greater good? It always begins within ourselves. And so even our willingness to do so is not only a step forward, but it's a step towards opening our hearts a little bit more, our minds a little bit more, and allowing the energy of that connection to flow through us and for us to be a full expression of it. So one of the other things that we had looked at, which I thought was really, really important, and in fact, as I watched that first episode tonight of Belief, was what is the difference between belief and faith? And tonight, as you know, our whole class is going to be in looking at belief directly. We're going to look at how beliefs are formed. We're going to look at where they come from, why we choose to hang on to some beliefs and why we choose to let some go. What are the factors that may separate us because of our beliefs? What are some of the factors that we can look for that will bring us together? And what are the factors of beliefs that are a driving force within us that impact the choices that we make and the actions that we take? How does that all happen? The reason that I decided to focus on all of that for this particular class is because I think that the more awareness that we have of our beliefs and what's going on at any given moment, which beliefs we're pulling up from the core of our being, which of those we're borrowing from another, which of those we choose to let go of, and which we refuse to let go of, and how that impacts us. As we look at all of that, we become, from my perspective, these powerful, powerful beings of light that are here capable of being this full expression of the love and the light of which we were born or created. Before we do that, I would like to address two questions that came up in queue after our session last time, which we didn't have the ability to address because of some technical issues. And by the way, I just want to invite you that if there are any questions that do come up for you, and for some reason we have these issues again, all right, where you cannot place your question in the queue, please email me at Marcy, M-A-R-C-Y, at heartshiftcoach.com. What I will do is I will check for any emails that come through that are not in queue, and also I will respond to you directly, as well as put a Q&A page up on the website where you are accessing all of these videos. All right? So I will address your questions. Please don't hesitate to ask them. And if for any reason you're unable to post those, I don't want you to just forget about it. I don't want you to think that they will be lost. Please just email me. Again, Marcy at heartshiftcoach.com. Okay, so this first question, I need to read to you. It's quite involved, and you're going to have to listen to this question with your heart. So I'm going to invite you to just close your eyes for a second and take a deep breath in, and then just let it out. And allow yourself to just be soft and to receive this question as I'm receiving it. All right? Okay. Remember, we're in this together. And these past weeks, we have really covered quite a bit of ground. And your wisdom is at its peak. All right? Particularly if you have been taking to heart and thinking about the things that we've talked about, just as these two questions indicate that they have. Okay, so here's the first one. I perceive I've examined my beliefs, excuse me, as contrasted to other beliefs over most of my adult life. One thing I'm very aware of having done in the past is to hold myself in some sort of spiritual superiority. Anyone else there having done that? My hand is raised. Thinking my open-mindedness and willingness to look at how others believe has given me more acceptance and unity with those with different beliefs. That is, compared to those who are so steadfast in their beliefs that they also want to impose them on others. When it comes to that way of operating, such as believing secular law should impose restrictions on behavior only because it correlates with a sector of a population's belief system, I get oppositional in attitude and sometimes in temperament. Anyone else having experienced that? I have. She goes on, I don't have issues with those kinds of sectors believing what they believe. What is challenging is finding the means in myself to honor their belief that they must impose their beliefs on others. I keep trying to understand what purpose is that serving me. To find grievance in their belief, they must do what they are doing. And then she adds, to make this question a little bit more understandable, we could use the example of gay marriage. I can honor your belief that marriage is a sacrament between a man and a woman. Why you believe and must impose that belief on me, I even get that. But how is it serving me to be in a grievance about your need to do that? First of all, I want to thank you for such an outstanding question. This is such an opportunity for all of us to sort of come into ourselves, all right, and to really be in that process of knowing ourselves. For there to be any grievance, there is a belief that's being held onto that is serving you in some way. And it's your job to explore and to discover just what that is. But I want to put focus on the initial aspect of that. If there is any grievance at all, it is because you are holding a belief that you are unwilling to let go of. A grievance is based on judgment. And although it's not always clear just how we are judging another, what is clear is that there is a need for compassion, that there is a need for extending acceptance, even when it's difficult for us to see. What also is important for us to embrace about ourselves is that so much of our psyche, so much of our perception about life, our choices that we make, our behaviors, the actions that we take, are all based on this belief that somehow we will be safer if we are separate from others. This probably goes back to, aspects of our hearts that are all of us in fear of being abandoned. And that we think, and particularly even as you said in the beginning of your note, was that you sometimes actually held yourself separate from a place of superiority. We have this belief that if we do that, that we will make certain that we will get what we need, that we will make certain that we are loved more than another, and make certain that we're recognized by God in a way that is unique, separate, or special from someone else. This is a really, really difficult challenge for us. We are told that there are no special relationships, and that all of the relationships between God and God's children are special. And that there is no need to clamor for recognition. There is no need to worry about not getting what we need or not getting recognized, because we are all recognized. And even though we can accept that because we know it's truth in the core of our being, when we're living out our daily lives, it often gets so confusing because it doesn't feel that way. And I think particularly when we're being challenged by the imposition of a belief system that is very separate from the one that we hold to be true for ourselves. There's a certain amount of feeling threatened or feeling like we have to defend ourselves in some way. When the truth is that we're not all meant to be on this same level. Of course, the hope is that when we all enter into that light, that we will be in recognition and remember who we are in that light. But in this world of illusions that we're in now, we see ourselves as separate. And there's part of us that needs to remember that and actually even accept it. And the fact is that these beliefs are based on people's own personal experiences and what they've been taught. One of the things that we've done in the past, I think, 2 segments is we discuss the difference between belief and faith. And clearly, belief is the culmination of our own individual programming. And we're going to talk more about that because that's really the focus of tonight's session. But nonetheless, when we begin to recognize that each individual journey is part of the journey of the whole, we can begin to recognize that just as there is no right and wrong, there is no part that's greater or lesser than the other. One of the images that I got a couple of years ago when I was confronted by a belief system that was so rigid, and I couldn't find any place where I felt safe within it. I had this image of some of the people that are in our lives who made this agreement that they would be the backs upon which we would stand, the backs upon which I would stand. In other words, where they are, because of where they are, it forced me or convinced me to take that step up or take that step forward. And in fact, in many cases, even gave me the leg up. And in some cases, catapulted me forward. Because that was where my truth took me. And so I know that that was a very long answer, but I think that your question really warranted it. Your question was so outstanding. How do our grievances serve us? The bottom line is they are in some way. And it's our responsibility to find out what that reason is, how they are serving us. And to explore, to discover, and to begin to take the actions to let go of whatever beliefs are associated with us staying there in that place of grievance and judgment and separation. Our goal always is to move forward into connecting. And that's what this whole belief series is about. You're going to see 7 nights worth of personal stories, people whose journeys will bring you to your knees, who they have become, what they have overcome through these journeys, where they have set their spirits free and have found belief systems that have enabled them to find the faith and the hope that they needed to go forwards in their lives. And so our job, our responsibility as these conscious beings of light is always to pay attention to when we are constricting ourselves in those places of judgment and grievance, how we are holding ourselves separate from the whole in that moment. And even if we don't understand it, to accept that that is what's happening, and to go through the process of forgiving ourselves, making certain that we give ourselves a huge dose of compassion and understanding of love, knowing we're just confused and it might still be cloudy, but we know that the light will lead us where we need to go. So we also often need to have patience with ourselves. And these are the very gifts that we also then need to extend to others, particularly if they're imposing upon us these belief systems, as I described before, where we just can't find any place to be safe within them. And so it is my heartfelt wish that each and every one of us steps into this process, this journey of really being connected to our own selves, allowing ourselves to be in the grace that requires us opening our hearts and our minds into a new place of understanding and acceptance and compassion and forgiveness. Forgiveness of ourselves, forgiveness of others, and of course, the knowingness that the light will deliver us. We just need to step into it. So thank you again for such an incredible question. It was fantastic. So I have another question I want to share with you, and then we're going to get right into the material for this evening. Given the great diversity of belief systems prevalent in our global community, what will need to happen to unify the people of the world together in a shared vision of our spiritual truth? Another great question. Thank you so much. What will need to happen? Well, I think so much of what needs to happen is what I've already described. It's this willingness to come into our hearts and to examine ourselves first. Where are we? What are we believing? What do our beliefs say about us and the vibrational frequency of our heart and our thoughts? What are the beliefs that we are clinging to? What are the beliefs that we can let go of? Are we meant to change our beliefs as we grow, as we learn? Or are we meant to remain devout in beliefs that we were programmed with as a child? As I said, we're going to get into those questions in a moment. But as far as the diversity of belief systems that are prevalent in our globe and what would need to happen, it's my belief that what would need to happen is the willingness. The willingness to look at what is for our greater good, but also the greater good of the world. We are in this together. We can try to ignore that. We can sweep it under the rug. We can do whatever we think will remove that truth from our consciousness, but we will never, ever succeed because the truth is our truth. We are all connected. We are one. And so to embrace that concept is imperative for the healing of the world. That recognition that we are all in this together. We are humanity. This is our home that we share. And so it requires that each and every one of us does our job. Just as each and every one of us has a job in our own individual homes. It's this home that we share that also requires that we do our jobs. And it's always a job of cleanup, no matter where you are. And so the more that we can dive into the cleanup within ourselves, get our brooms, our dustpans, our counselors, our therapists, our books, our conversations, our dialogues, our exchanges, our time spent together learning about each other. The more that we do the cleanup, the faster we get to live in this home that is a perfect place for us all to be. Perfect place for living, for happiness, for joy, for health, for prosperity. And that requires a shared vision. You know, one of the things that we did as part of the belief team, and I spoke about this actually the evening that we showed the trailer, was that we were addressing a series of questions for ourselves. And one of those questions was, what is your vision of a healed world? And so I'm inviting you to spend time with that question. What is your vision of a healed world? Well, if there are bits and pieces of your vision that are the same as mine, and I believe there are, and that there are so many others, billions around this globe, who I bet if we had a conversation with each and every one, we would find that there are bits and pieces of this shared vision. Imagine how quickly that vision would grow. Imagine how quickly that vision would create the world that we actually want to live in. A place where we can all be happy and healthy and whole. And of course, be safe. Be safe. So, thank you again for that wonderful, wonderful question. So let's move into the material. One of the things that we said that we would make certain to address was how beliefs are formed. So we've talked about it a bit in the other segments, but I want to make certain that you have a clear understanding, okay, how a belief is formed. The belief that you have right at this very moment about anything, okay, is actually part of a system. It's not just one individual belief. It's a whole persona of belief that you utilize to make the choices and decisions and take actions in your life. Where did they come from? Well, they started to be formed the moment that you were born and brought into your family. Many of them are actually in your DNA. They come from your ancestors. They come from those who many are not even living, but have been transferred from one person to the next. And these beliefs sometimes have absolutely nothing to do with you whatsoever. And sometimes they're more contemporary. But the beliefs that you have today are really a combination of beliefs and experiences from every aspect of your life, from your family, your friends, your religion, your education, your culture, your society, even the media affects your belief system. How that happens is the amount of emotional response that you witnessed, felt, and fed it with either strengthens a belief or reduces its strength. Those belief systems that you hold in this moment as your truth are all your truth based upon how strong the emotional tie is that you have towards it. That's why in a lot of cases, there are some beliefs that are so difficult to change, to let go of. And in fact, There are beliefs that are both positive and negative that we will fight to the death to hold on to. Now you might say, why would I hold on to something that's a negative, that's not good for me? Because it depends on how strong that emotional tie is to it. How many emotional deposits you have made into the creation of that belief system. I can tell you that those that are based on fear are very powerful. Fear is so powerful because it's insidious. It has lots of different disguises, and you don't always recognize when it's here in the forefront and it's taken over, taken control of a situation. And this is why often we hold ourselves so separate from others, because we have a fear of their beliefs, and we have a fear-based belief within us. You have two fear-based belief systems. There's only one thing that it can create: more fear. What we know is that energy is always seeking other energy just like itself. And so it's so important that we really begin to examine our beliefs and ask ourselves, is this belief based on fear, or is it based on truth? Now, how would you differentiate that? Someone may say, well, that belief is based on fear, but there's truth to it. The truth that I'm talking about is that love is all there is. 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 That's the truth that I'm talking about. And I know it sounds lofty, but here's what I can guarantee you. When you begin that search for love, when you're examining your belief systems that are based on fear and separation, if you begin that search of love, you're going to find it, because it's just there waiting for you. And in that moment, it might be obscured, or for some reason, in all the confusion and the chaos that is always created in fear, you might just not be able to see it. But here's what happens when we step into love, and we step into the light of love. Because energy is always seeking out other energy just like itself, it's what you start to see more of. It's what you start to feel more of. It's what you start to expand into more of. And it's what you become an extension of more of. What that also means is that more of it keeps flooding in. And the more expansive that you become in it, it has more places to land within you. I know that this may be a strange concept, but I'm going to invite you to actually just give it a try. So the next time that you find yourself really focusing in on all the negative of a situation, and it's feeding these beliefs of fear. And by the way, I'm right there with you. It happens to me, and it happens to every person that I know. But the moment that you make it your focus, your responsibility, and in fact, even step up and make it your obligation to do so, when you start to examine and to search just for love, I guarantee you that everything in your life is going to change. So here we have this opportunity now, particularly in the nights between October 18th and the 24th, to really be one with the people whose lives are being shared with us in those videos. Their trials, their tribulations, how they came to their beliefs, how their beliefs enabled them once again to have faith and hope in their lives. And this is what you are always looking for, whether you realize that or not. And it's only if that fear has become so consuming that you go into that place of hiding and separation that you can't see it. But each and every one of us is on that search. And so the more we do it proactively, consciously, the more we actually get to enjoy it in our lives. So that's where beliefs come from. They come from all of these generations of people who have lived before us, who through their own life experiences, many of which have no relevance to ours whatsoever, are teaching us things. And we, rather than asking questions, rather than examining them, simply in the hopes of being accepted and loved and safe, we just continue to feed them within us. There are some, of course, that are for our highest good and for the highest good of others. And those we do want to keep and we want to nurture and nourish so that they become a governing force in our lives. But anything that keeps us small, anything that keeps us separate, anything that creates a sense of fear, a fear of not having enough, not being enough, not being deserving or lovable or even likable. Any of those beliefs that keep us separate from each other and from the whole need to be examined and need to be fed doses of compassion and tenderness and generosity of the spirit and acceptance and love. And that's the process, by the way, that I refer to when we're talking about heart shifting, because that's really where change of beliefs has to take place, particularly those that we are so adamant in remaining loyal to, even though they're creating so much destruction and chaos within us and within those around us. The factors that separate us in our beliefs are always those that make us believe in any way that we are deserving of something more than another, that we are right and they are wrong, that we are good and they are bad. When we can begin to see that just each and every one of us is on this journey, we begin to recognize that not one of us is a finished product, and that wherever we are right now is indicative that we are a product of a belief system that has put us there. But the choice to move from that is a personal one. I've been very blessed. As I told you in my previous segments, I've experienced both the belief of fear and the belief of love, the belief of being closed, the belief of being open. I have allowed myself to explore so many different religious institutions and spiritual traditions. In fact, if you looked at my life, it would sort of be this very, very winding road through it all. But every single thing that I am now, everything that I do, even this discussion that we're having, is because I've allowed myself to have a journey that has been very convoluted. And I've examined myself along the way. I've let go of the things that I was aware of that were keeping me small and separate. Not always in a timely fashion, but the time was perfect for me. It was as I was able to let go and prepare a place to let in. And so that's my wish for you. In watching the Belief series beginning on Sunday the 24th, that you will simply allow yourself to travel those journeys that you will be bearing witness to, these incredible journeys of finding oneself and their connection to the God consciousness within them in whatever way makes sense to them, their interpretation. And so I would like to close this session before I take your questions, hopefully that we will be able to technically address. And I would like to just leave you with this question. And this question also came from one of our Belief team meetings, actually with Oprah herself. And that is, and this was actually posted by Sister Jenna. What does God feel like to you? Spend some time with that question. You will discover so much about yourself, but you will also discover what is in that well of love that will be the catalyst for all the faith and the hope that you will ever need, regardless of the circumstance in your life. What does God feel like to you? And so I want to repeat one more thing before I take your questions, and that is, if you have a story that you would like to share with Oprah about your beliefs, about your journey, about perhaps a belief that you changed and how your whole life changed because of it, please email me your story at marcy@heartshiftcoach.com. In addition, I just wanted to give you a heads up that after the Belief series is complete, I will also be offering 4 more sessions where we're going to look a little bit more in detail at beliefs in connection to relationships, to prosperity, to health, and also to grief. Something that I have to share in each of those categories that I think has such an impact on our lives. So let's join together again. So just watch out for that email in your inbox, okay? And I hope that you'll join us. Okay, so if we have anyone who has a question, and hopefully you will be able to enter it in. So there's just a little note here for anyone to ask a question. I guess this is part of the issue from before. If you wish to ask me a question during this Hangout, you have to be signed into your Google account. I didn't know that before, and that's not unusual. Or you also have to sign up for a Google account if you don't have one. And then you click on the square next to the question mark to choose the Q&A or select, all right? So I will hang out a moment and see if we get any questions coming through. And while we're waiting to see, I also want to just express again my gratitude for you being here. I know what it takes to take this time out of your very busy days. I know that on the East Coast, it's getting, really into the evening hours there, and I appreciate you being here. I also recognize that for those of you on the West Coast, you may be rushing through dinner or trying to get someplace, and still you're here, which tells me how important this dialogue is to you and also to each and every one of us. This is what we need to address. We need to address this need to speak to each other, to share ideas, to learn about each other. You know, there are watch parties taking place all over the globe at various places and also on various nights, okay? Every single night between the 18th and the 24th, there are watch parties everywhere. So if you don't get the OWN network on your televisions, hopefully there'll be a watch party close to you. For those of you who live anywhere in the Boulder, Denver area of Colorado, as far as you would like to drive, I will be hosting a watch party on October 18th. And I will be sharing this first segment of the documentary, and it's entitled The Seekers. That should give you a clue about how this whole documentary begins. And so that, by the way, that information is on my website, which is heartshiftcoach.com. And I invite you to join me. Bring your friends, bring your family. I always say bring your enemies. You never know, how you will impact their lives. And enemies always have the potential to become friends as well as family. So I hope that you will join me on Sunday from 4 to 6. And it's right in Superior, Colorado at the main theater in the community center at the Bell Flatirons housing development. It's a beautiful theater. Of course, we'll be serving popcorn, and we'll have what I know will be a very deep and lively discussion afterwards. So it looks as if we have no questions coming through at this time. I hope that I've answered all the questions that you may have had tonight. And if not, again, please email me at marcy@heartshiftcoach.com. And until the next time, again, please try to see as many segments of the documentary as possible. Every single moment of them will be so worth your while and worth your heart and worth your mind. And of course, I'm sending you all of my blessings for great love and compassion and healing in your life, and remembering exactly who you are and how loved and cherished you are beyond all measure. Thank you so much for being with me, and I look forward to seeing you again soon. Bye-bye.